Hello, everyone. Name's Curtis Harris. Nice to meet you all. I was part of the 2025 August cohort for Code Louisville, and I'm excited to talk to you about what I have. But a little bit before I get into that, some background about me is that I'm a Louisville native. I was a JCTC grad, and I started off as a student, later to become a cybersecurity student mentor. And I love building a lot of environments at home labs. I love building a lot of technology and working with fitness and always doing what I can to learn more and more each day about both cybersecurity and tech around us. The first part of my capstone that I worked on, since it was a two-part, was a log analyzer parser. We had a lot of data to go through, and there was very suspicious hits within that we had to figure out what those were and figure out a way to organize that into data sets that could be easily digested for a cybersecurity team. And I would like to take some points to look at that. Now, with my specific process of building a parser, I had to learn more about counters within the Python environment and utilizing those counters to store data and using that to come back and have that data show up in very specific regards. For example, with privilege escalations, that is giving a user within your ecosystem more power than what they may or may not be allowed to have. And we need to track that. So being able to know how to track that and how to print that for it to be viewed for a team to look at very easily and quickly was something that I had to figure out. And right here, what you can see in kind of the example code that I have here and some of the example printing is kind of showing what that kind of looked like from a perspective. For example, when someone makes a privilege change, that's important to know for your team. And if someone makes a suspicious change, as in changing someone to admin who shouldn't have admin process, that's something you need to track. And then when it comes to printing in a console quickly, meaning that you're able to see it very soon, that is what I wanted to look at and print out for the console for the quick view, which you see in the summary print here. And then secondly, for a document to be printed, a little like text document, that's what the right you were seeing there, just as some example for that first log analyzer. Secondly, for the second part of my capstone project, I had to analyze a network's forensics problem. So what that is called is typically using a program like Wireshark to view a onset of data that usually comes from frames. Everything you do on the internet activates through a frame. So from the time you click to the time it actually actuates on the HTML, all of the things that are loaded and sent to you as a user or given back is a frame. And this little piece of that information over a time frame was about 60,000 frames or more. So the problem was, how do we find the needle in the haystack? And I learned a technique from one of my friends at Apple at their cybersecurity development team known as hiding in plain text or hiding in plain sight. And I want to show a little bit of that today for you guys. So the filter that I used for Wireshark is known as data text lines. And basically what that does is it allows you to quickly identify things that come from specific IPs to then give you information about things that that specific IP is doing in plain text, meaning that over unprotected ports, which are things that traffic is sent, such as our port for HTTPS, which we use most every day with everywhere, is 443, or an unprotected version of that, which is port 80, which is what we're looking at now, which is unprotected text, non-encrypted text being sent over. And something that I noticed within 5 minutes, which is really good. It's very good to find things quickly in cybersecurity. I was able to see that there was something being written in Russian. All of the other code is in English, but we have this hit here that's in Russian. That's not normal from a cybersecurity perspective. And so we need to further investigate. And with that further investigation, we were able to find a malicious file. This zip sent through what looks like to be it's sending an IP, which is something normal for communication. They obfuscate it or change what it should normally be to then send a zip file to one of our target PCs. And on top of that, that same thing that hit from looking up data text lines, the 153.92 IP address, was also hit sending information to a website domain known as whitepepper.su. And for those of you that don't know, SU stands for Soviet Union, which is a decommissioned, non-protected, um, perceived to be Russian government owned specific website that is used to send malicious data. So from there, I was able to make a big conclusion that we have our C2 center, which is a command and control center where a malicious entity will operate from, and then they will send these terrible things out to your company to try to gain data. Now, later, what I've learned about is that this specific attack was known as the Luma Stealer, and it happened in January 31st of this year, 2026. And I was really happy to present this to my mentors because I was able to find the C2 Center and essentially work in reverse to show how I was able to get there. Here's an example of just what that looked like. As you can see, we had over 60,000 frames, which I talked about, but I was able to reduce it to eight. And just looking over those eight frames, I was able to immediately find something. This documentation is going to be in my GitHub if you have more interest in seeing what it's about, as well as the Luma Stealer. I have a specific link down here from Nord Stellar that you can look at if you have more curiosities about these kinds of attacks and malware. Once again, thank you all for being here today at the presentation day, the demo day for all of us. I really appreciate what you guys have done here at Code U, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Curtis, thanks so much for kicking us off and for that great presentation. I know having a cybersecurity class has been a while in the works for us, so it's awesome to see some of the really cool work that's coming out of it. You mentioned this in your intro, but you graduated from the cybersecurity pathway and then returned as a mentor to help the current session of students. So, can you just talk a little bit about how that experience has been so far and how you think it may be able to prepare you for a future role in cybersecurity or in tech?
Oh, absolutely. And I definitely want to speak to the idea of junior and senior in a lot of our developments throughout anything in tech. We need juniors to be able to become seniors so that we can teach our processes as seniors, things that we've learned, experiences that we've gained to further cultivate more and more people interested in the tech field. Because as technology changes and grows, especially in cybersecurity, with new zero days coming out, new attacks coming out, every day, even at this point, especially with the addition of AI being thrown into the mix, we need more and more people to be present and vigilant in these kinds of things. And the reason why I was so excited to become a mentor is because it's important for us who have gained knowledge and gained skills to be able to make it accessible for those to think, yes, you can do this. Yes, you can be a part of that. And that's something I have Code Louisville to thank for that.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing, Curtis. I know
Absolutely.
we have had so many former students come back to mentor, which is great. I think sometimes there's a little bit of that imposter syndrome that goes along with it, but you've just been through it, you know it, you really can empathize with the students. So I think that's been some of our best mentors, has been the folks that return to help out from the pathways that they themselves took. So we appreciate you presenting as well as giving back to this current class.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.